Right, come on, you two. It's not professional, this. Right, pack it in. Right. Did they get the better deal, or did we get the better deal? It's just Geno is really starting to piss me off with some of the stuff he's doing.
13 combined total carries for Kent and Zach Charbonnet is a horrendous decision.
I would say that Waldron is the best at scripting 2-minute drills and opening drives. Yeah. I think he's one of the worst at calling plays in game.
You don't buy a pair of walking boots and then climb the mountain in sandals, do you?
Please tell me you've watched The Matrix, James.
Yes.
With the blue and the red pill?
Yes.
Which path do you want to take? Because they're both going to fuck you in the arse, essentially.
Ladies and gentlemen, Seahawks and football fans everywhere, a very warm welcome back to the We Talk Seahawks podcast. I hope you're all doing well. We're all feeling good. Lots of positive vibes. We're top of the NFC West. The Seahawks are winning games. We're making moves. It's Christmas time. Yes, it is Christmas time because before you say anything, Pez has got his Christmas mug, and today I saw that Asda advert for the first time with Mickey Bubble at the end, Michael Bublé singing. So that means it's Christmas time. 1st of November, all that's Christmas time. But it can't get much better than this at the minute. It's we're living the dream. Another win, another raising your blood pressure win. Let's put it that way, as they all are. But as we always say, this is what we signed up for. We know this by now. But we got there in the end. And who better to do it than Jackson Smith-Njigba himself in the throwback? Absolutely glorious content. And we're going to be talking about it tonight. But first of all, Mitch, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, very good. My heart rate is returning to its usual rhythm after that last-minute win against the Browns, which was a really difficult watch, I think, for a lot of us. We got to see a bit of a mixed bag again, didn't we? On offense in particular, but yeah, I'm good now, and I'm looking forward to the Ravens game. Honestly, I think we've got a really good chance against a difficult franchise, and we'll certainly find out on Sunday just how good we are. I think.
Yeah, it's a bit of a coin flip game, but it's an interesting one. It's going to be a close one again, but another chance to test ourselves against a good opponent. So I'm looking forward to it as well. And of course, Mr. Positive himself. How are you doing, mate?
I am good.
Good.
Positive as usual. Birthday week, so
yeah.
I don't know. Is it classed as my birthday week? It was Monday. Do I still get to blag it for the whole week?
Yeah.
Or is it? Oh, yeah, fuck it. Birthday week. Yeah, stressful game. Pete Carroll was in that blue tent most of the game. Don't know what he was up to. I have an idea. He definitely wasn't getting his heart rate checked. He was fucking loving every second of that game. You should have mic'd that man up for this game, not the Cardinals game, because he would have been ecstatic with the way that game went down. 15 Seahawks fans lost their lives on Sunday because of the blood pressure going through the roof. Pete Carroll.
Is that an official stat?
Probably.
I know that was very specific.
It was.
It's an official Pez stat. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this Ravens game. Like I thought, for UK fans, it's on Sky Sports.
It is.
So I can't wait. I'm looking forward to this game because, like Mitch said, it's a good measuring stick to see how good we actually are. And for anyone, because I've seen some people say it, that we've got no chance against the Ravens, we're going to get humbled. Ravens aren't that great. The Cardinals, 31-24. Yeah, they destroyed the Lions. They did a number on the Browns. They struggled. Well, they lost to the Steelers. They struggled against the Titans. They lost to the Colts. Barely scraped by the Bengals. And then beat the Texans in week 1. So I wouldn't write us off in that game at all. But anyway, sorry, I digress. I'm on one tonight. I really am. I'm hyper as anything. I don't even know why. But back to reality and this game we just witnessed. Before, I'm going to steal your limelight, James. Before we talk about the game, the trade with Williams.
Leonard Williams.
Leonard Williams. See, I'm so all over the place. I know his name, but I don't know much about him. Right? I think I know his name with the help of James. Right. Come on, you two. It's not professional, this. Right, pack it in. Right. Let's just cut this bit out, right? Yeah, so we made that trade for Leonard Williams.
Fucking hell.
I know his name.
Oh, fucking hell. Oh, fuck's sake.
Oh, fucking hell. Oh, we're going to need to cut this out.
Oh, fucking assassinate me in your fucking bed. Oh.
You absolutely killed me.
Oh. God.
We're gonna have to cut this out. We're gonna have to cut this out. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, fucking hell. Oh, right. We're never going to get this done here.
Right.
Oh.
Right. So before we talk about the game, we made a trade for Leonard Williams. Now, you two were very excited about it in our Discord. I don't know much about what he brings, so I want you two to explain to me exactly what we're getting.
Right. We can play hangman with his name first and make sure we know it if you want. Leonard Williams.
I told you I'm all over the place. I'm sorry.
Yes. Leonard Williams, we did indeed make a trade. We pre-gamed the trade deadline. Did it the day before as Pete and Carol. Oh, fuck it, it's all going wrong. This is completely on you. Pete Carroll and John Schneider love to do, make sure they're the front and centre talk of the NFL world when it comes to trades. So they did it when they knew they'd get the only bit of coverage, do it the day before. People only talking about the Seahawks then. So yes, Leonard Williams for a 2024 second rounder and a 2025 fifth round pick. Interesting to note that the Seahawks, if they don't extend him beyond the end of the season, they'll probably get a compensatory pick in the third or fourth round region as well, which is an interesting little sweetener to the deal potentially too. But yes, Leonard Williams, a very good football player on his way to the Pacific Northwest, hasn't had the best of times in recent years in terms of his production, but he's a former Pro Bowl defensive tackle, defensive lineman, whatever you want to call him. He can line up pretty much anywhere, as Mitch will probably tell you with better detail than I can. But some interesting little nuggets here. 77.2 pass rush grade this year, which is 11th among defensive tackles. He's had 64 pressures since 2020, which is 7th among defensive tackles. And he's had 18 sacks since 2020, and that is the 8th most among defensive tackles. So, in a lot of respects, the Seahawks are adding a top 10 interior defensive lineman to their defensive line. So for that reason, I'm pretty ecstatic because this was the kind of player that we just didn't have on that defensive line, that big space eater on the interior, and now we've got him. So I'm extremely happy. Mitch, you can probably explain it in a bit better detail than I can. So what do you think of it?
Mitch, sorry, could I just jump in and add another question in there? With the Niners taking Chase Young and a lot of Seahawks fans like pounding the table for Chase Young and for what the Niners paid for him, just to add that in there when you're explaining, did they get the better deal or did we get the better deal? Or does it work?
Okay, so I'll answer your bit first because there is some interesting stuff there. So Chase Young is a guy that in order to renew him, they're going to have to pay him 18 to 20 million a season, right? And Leonard Williams at 29, if we agree a contract with him, it's 2 or 3 years, and it's likely 10 to 12 million a season, right? So we're staring down the barrel of 36 to 40 million over 3 years. They are staring down the barrel of 60 to 80 over 3 or 4 years, right? That is a lot of money for a guy who has a really checkered injury history so far in the league, and has been inconsistent because of those spells on the sidelines, injured. So we've picked up a guy with a stellar injury history and a longer period of sustained quality performances. They've picked up a guy who is still living off his college pedigree and hasn't been able to sustain, and they're on the hook for more money. So we've got a far safer deal than they have. So I'm happier with our pickup. I also would add in the point that when you stack edge rushers on big contracts, there's a diminishing return there, because if you've got two good bookends that are starters, imagine the Wosu and Mafe for us, right? You've got your starting two. Anyone else behind them is a rotational piece to add depth, to add different specialities, different things. The 49ers already have a very established D line, and they're going to spend another 20 million on an extra one that they have to take snaps away to spread. So there comes a point where you're paying the same money to another player and everyone does less. So there's a diminishing returns if you stack that position. That's not the case at the interior of the D line, especially when they're versatile, because you're rotating those guys to a certain degree anyway. So I think our move made a lot more sense and it's a lot more safe. I made the point on Twitter on the night that we traded that we actually gave up an awful lot less than a second and a fifth if we don't renew them at the end of the year. Because what happens, James alluded to it earlier, if we trade for someone and someone else signs them at the end of their contract, the money that they get determines the compensatory pick that you get. So with Leonard Williams, if someone pays him 15 million and we don't match it at the end of the year, we don't renew him before and someone pays him 15 million, we get like a third. But if we don't renew him and someone pays him 10 million, we obviously didn't want to pay that much for him. Our compensatory pick would be a fourth. Does that make sense? So when you think about it, the worst case scenario for Leonard Williams is he joins us and we pay him 600k this year, because that's all we're paying him. £600,000 is nothing, right? We pay him almost nothing this year. He adds to our push through the playoffs. He signs for somebody else, and our fifth round pick in 2025 moves from a fifth round to a third, right? So actually we've given away a late second round pick, because our second round pick's looking like it's close to a third at this point. It'll be like 58th in the round, and then we've moved up 2 rounds in 2025. So it's not quite as simple as just two picks, So we got a really good deal for the cap. We got a really good deal picking up a player that will be cheaper next year. His current contract with the Giants, I don't know if you guys knew this, it was a 68 or 64 million pound contract. Enormous deal he came off, and his cap hit this year was 34 million pounds. It's enormous, and we picked him up in that 34 million pound year for 600k.
It's a great deal when you look at it like that.
What when I look at it, it reminds me of what they did when the Super Bowl year, was it the Super Bowl year when they picked up Cliff and Michael Bennett, or was it the year before?
So it was that year or the year before? It's one of the two.
I think I'm gonna go with. I'm sure it was that year, and this kind of move reminds me of that. They made them moves because they felt like
it was the time to push.
I said this at the start of the season. I said, if they attack free agency early, that will show me that they genuinely believe they've got a team.
Yeah.
And they went and got Nwosu straight away with something they don't normally do. And then to go and make a move like this, where there's a lot of the fan base that I'm seeing are saying we paid too much for it, but they like it. And like the Seahawks have bagged the D's trades like Jamal Adams, was it Golden Tate and things like that of that nature. And they're saying they're concerned that this is going to fall into that bracket of paying high and getting nothing in return. But I see it more like this is a move like it was the Michael Bennett mid-season, I think, pick up what they did, because they already had Cliff and then Mike B came later. And it just reminds me of that. And that was at a period where they clearly, genuinely believed that they could win it all now. And we are about to hit a thing in our roster where it's like run-centric teams. So they need the extra interior help, especially with a guy. That's the one thing I do know about him is he is good in the run, good against the run, should I say.
Yeah. I was going to mention as well, like his positional versatility is really good. And with us not having Nwosu there now, we've seen a lot of Darryl Taylor on the field in obvious run scenarios, and it's not. We've got Darryl Taylor out there playing some of his snaps for the game in situations where he's not the specialist. One thing we have done, the Seahawks have done in previous years, is use a system or a position that they call the big end, which is having a non outside linebacker playing as a big heavy defensive end to secure the end of the line. That's a role that we drafted Mike Morris for. Push him inside, but also have him on the field. So if we want to change our look, we can use him as an outside as well as using him as an interior. So we can shift from a 3 to a 4 with the same personnel on the field. That was something that we wanted Mike Morris for. Well, Mike Morris, they got up to 300 pounds and he's 6'5". Well, Leonard Williams is 6'5", 305. It's the same body, it's the same shape. And when you look at the snaps that he's had in the NFL, he's already played 600 snaps at nose tackle. And that's 3 times more than Jarran Reed's played in the NFL at nose tackle. So we've got a guy there that can do that role for us. And then he's also had 1,000 snaps at defensive end, actually rushing from the edge, not from the interior. So all of a sudden, you've got a guy who can play as cover for Jarran Reed. He can play instead of Mario Edwards. He can play instead of Jarran Reed. He can play on the edge instead of any of the edge guys. That's crazy versatility and experience. So it amplifies everyone. And also, he's been serially double teamed for years because he is a serious force that needs to be looked after. So I think the player that really benefits from this trade, if I'm going to name one player on the defensive line that loves this move, it's probably Draymond Jones. Draymond Jones is going to be one-on-one all the time. Jarran Reed, another one, he's going to have. They're going to feast because if they take those guys on one-on-one, all 3 of them can beat their man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really interesting move. Obviously, people are making comparisons to Chase Young. Well, but for me, like you said there, that sums up the value to it for me is his versatility. He's such a Swiss Army knife. You line him up anywhere. He's depth for every position. Whereas Chase Young is purely an edge guy and a good edge guy, but he's purely coming off that edge. Whereas Leonard Williams, like you say, you can plug and play him wherever you want. And most sacks for the Giants since 2019 is Leonard Williams with 22.5 on a defensive line that has Dexter Lawrence, Ojulari, Thibodeau, a lot of talented pass rushers on there, and he's leading them all since 2019. So I love the move. I think it makes us a lot stronger on that defensive line. And when you've got a defense as talented as ours, if we can keep adding to it and fill in the holes, as small as they are, with extra good players, then I'm all for it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Dexter Lawrence.
He fits Clint Hurt's player mold. What he's done this year at the start of the year, he said he wanted like you said, versatile guys who can play all across the line. Whereas I don't know much about Chase Young. Can he do that? I don't know. I think Leonard Williams is a lot better in that regard, and that's why we didn't go and get Chase Young.
Yeah, like I say, I think that would have potentially stunted the progress of Boye Mafe, which is why I was worried about adding a Chase Young personally. Anything else to say on Leonard Williams before we get to the offense?
I've got something to add about our other interests before we traded for Leonard Williams. So I said to you it was yesterday morning in Discord that I'd heard that John Schneider had thoroughly investigated the Chase Young situation. It came out today. Again, can't remember who reported it, so excuse me, I'll have to find you my sources. But it is in the news today that we were examining possible trades for Uche from the Patriots, as well as another interior pass rusher, who's a guy who's had great production for years. But it's believed now that the trade capital asking price for Uche was a lot higher than Williams, probably because of his age profile, I'd say. But one thing that does highlight is that John Schneider, as he says, is always in everything that's going on around the league. He fully investigates every situation. It's not just, something he throws out there to, keep the fans hyped and raise belief in them as a front office. He genuinely is involved in investigating everything. And I think the one move they did make made an awful lot of sense and didn't screw us down the line. If you look at that Chase Young move, next year they're going to pay him 20 million. Where is that 20 million coming from? Because honestly, it's so hard. They'll have to cut someone for him.
Yeah. I've not seen anyone. I've been on YouTube and like Rich Eisen. Everyone's been. I've not seen anyone say this is a bad move. That messed up. Like Rich Eisen was like, he was like pounding the table like that. He was like, this defense is already good as it is. Like, if you want a guy to take it to the next level, they've just got him. And what does John and Pete always do? They always go and get the guys, and they always go and execute. So people better watch out because of what they've just done. So there's a lot of buzz coming just from that trade alone, let alone giving the respect to the actual defense we have.
Oh yeah,
he seems really hyped for it as well. On social media, he's been quite hyped. And I think if you look at a guy who's been that good for this long, yeah, exactly. If you look at a guy that's been that good for that long, and has only had one playoff appearance, going to a team that is always there or thereabouts with, even if we dabble in just one game in the playoffs every year, we're there fairly consistently. So I feel like he'll step up a gear just because he's within touching distance of achieving something for his career, for his legacy. Only one Pro Bowl appearance for him, but he's always been on the cusp. When you look around the league at players like Aaron Donald and players like that, there are lots of sort of premium defensive tackles. People have always put him just in the category below that.
Yeah,
this really feels now like that he's got the stage to really show people that he belongs. So I feel like his motivation is going to go through the roof. And also, one final thing, right? How about this for a vote of confidence? You watch your quarterback get sacked 11 times by a defense on prime time, right? And then that front office sees you as the guy to make that better. You know, that's a great vote of confidence, because he probably sat there thinking, my God, this D-line is unbelievable. And then they come asking for you to come and improve it. That's a great vote of confidence from the Seahawks for him.
Yeah, good shout. Really looking forward to seeing what Leonard Williams can do. He's a disruptive football player, monster, big cat sighting in the Pacific Northwest. Let's see what he can do. But let's get back to the Cleveland Browns game. Let's pivot back to the football game that we won this week. Only just. I'll read you through the stat lines from the game, and then we'll get into the individual performers. So 362 total yards of offense for the Seahawks this week, 248 passing yards, 114 rushing yards, with an average of 6.6 yards per play. We managed to bag 17 first downs. We were 4-12 on third down efficiency. Another poor day, really, on third downs. 1 for 1 on fourth downs, though, so that's something. 55 total plays for the Seahawks compared to the Browns' 75. Just the one sack allowed on Geno Smith, and we registered 3 sacks. 5 punts for the Seahawks, as we all well know. 3 punts for the Browns. Another frustrating day on penalties. 7 penalties for only 43 yards, but 7 penalties is another lot of penalties on a day they just cannot seem to get those numbers down at the minute. No fumbles, 2 interceptions, and we considerably lost the time of possession battle. 23 minutes and 20 seconds the Seahawks had the football, and the Browns had it for 36 minutes and 40 seconds. But yet again, the Seahawks just seemed to find a way to get it done when they needed to. We'll start with the main man, as we always do, Geno Smith. 23 completions on 37 attempts, 254 yards of passing, 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. This might be interesting. What did we make on Geno? I'll start with you, Pez, because there were some interesting states of minds in that third, fourth quarter when things just weren't going right. There was a few calls for a certain Drew Lock, I remember.
See, you can't take my words out of context. I'm not as aggressive as some in our Discord
I'll give you that.
community who are like, just get Drew in now. I was saying it from a statement because Geno started really grinding on me, really pissing me off. And I agreed with everything you said because I've said it on this podcast numerous times. The Drew Lock experience will not be pretty. Everyone's like, they were doing it through the game, still doing it now. Drew Lock starting because for whatever reason they think that Pete's a wizard. No, they'll put him in against the Ravens. Put Drew Lock in against the Ravens and see how drastically wrong that goes. Like, it's not the fact that Drew's better than Geno. It's just Geno is really starting to piss me off with some of the stuff he's doing. That was my in-play reaction. I was just like, put Drew Lock in for a series. Give the guy. I know like people would bite back at it and go, it's not the right take. And I do understand that. But just give the guy a bit of a breather. He's clearly in his head too much. He's fucking up left, right, and centre. And he's regressing so badly to the point where he can only get 1 quarter of quality offense. And then he's going downhill. You can't even blame the play calling. He's underthrowing, overthrowing, doing this, doing that. But we were 3 out of 4 in the red zone this week. So is that play calling? Because that's what we said the last couple of weeks. Play calling in the red zone's fucking shit. But we're 3 out of 4. So something changed to get us 3 out of 4. Now, that was my in-play reaction. I rewatched it, took a step back. And do you know what Geno Smith's biggest issue is? Do you know a very unpopular opinion? And I even think it's very unpopular, but I'm going to say it anyway, is, do you know what could have benefited Geno the most? It might sound crazy, but maybe seeing who would be interested in DK in the trade. And I'll say it like this. Last year, we were on this podcast, and we all said, what's going on with DK and Geno? DK's nowhere to be seen in games. Geno won't target him. Geno won't touch him. If Geno then tries touching him, he overthrows him. Without, like, I'm just going to bring him in because I'm going to highlight, I think one of the biggest issues with Geno at the moment is 14 targets, 5 receptions. That was DK Metcalf's stat line. Geno, for some reason, was trying to hyper-target him, and it wasn't working. He did this last year. What we are seeing out of Geno Smith, and this game confirmed it for me, is he literally did this last year. He did it last year. He struggled. Started off really good, and then midway through the season, really started struggling to move the chains, get the offense going, struggle with his chemistry with DK. I don't know what it is. Maybe they just don't like each other and they get on each other's tits. I really don't know. But this game was like deja vu from last year. But then Geno got it going again. I said it in the offseason. I said I'm really intrigued to see what Geno and DK's chemistry was like. I said it on the podcast. And they started off with a really good chemistry, and then it started petering out. It started, whether that's the play calling, trying to get DK to do things, he's not trying hard enough. He can't do what they're asking for him. Maybe it's true that he can only run goal balls and you've got to just leave him as the deep threat specialist. I don't personally buy into that, but something between them two fucking stinks. And I think that's the reason why Geno's really struggling at the moment. Because I'll just quickly read it off. Except for DK, out of every other receiver, 2, 4, 6, 7 other people who caught a pass from Geno, they were either banged on the money or dropped one pass.
Well, you lead me in really nicely to something I was going to mention on this subject. I've got a little stat here, and you started it, to be fair. It was 14 or 15 targets for DK in the game, right? 5 catches. Is that what you've got? 5 catches?
Yep.
Yeah. Do you know how many of those statistically were deemed catchable for DK?
Go on then.
6.
I don't know. Yeah,
so DK, yeah, there was wobbly ones that were going to his feet. There were ones shot way over his head in the end zone that weren't throwaways. They were just launched. I think he's trying sometimes to put it up there where only he can get it, but he's just getting it. He's gauging it wrong. He's putting them high, but too fast for him to get near. Sometimes, so 15 targets, 16 catchable, 5 actually caught. So realistically, if you're being fair to DK, he's 5 out of 6 that were possible.
Fair, that's fair enough, and that would make sense because, like, I'm not here saying like DK is the issue, but I'm looking at solutions to make Geno work. Because inevitably that's what we want to do. We don't really want to see the Drew Lock experience because the last time he played a full competitive game of football, he was awful. So really, our season at this current moment in time for me, our season literally falls on whether we can just prop Geno up. And do you know what? I don't give a fuck. If that means just putting DK out there as a distraction, as a blocker for JSN to fucking do his little screens and do his little business, I don't care. Do it. But we need to find a way to prop that man up and drag him through till he gets his head out of his ass. Because like we spoke about heavily the last couple of weeks, play calling or Geno, I'm still in the camp of it's Geno after watching some of them passes he threw to DK, one of the biggest guys on the fucking field. Like, you shouldn't have that issue. In my opinion, you shouldn't. But not to just dig on the guy, I'll just end it quickly with, again, very much deja vu from last year. He then went on the game-winning drive and managed to do it. Something Mitch alludes to very much in our Discord, what he probably will, I'd imagine, speak more about now with Geno and some situations where he's really good. All I'd say is he got better last year as the season went on. He managed to sort himself out and pull his head out of his arse. The difference this year compared to last year is he actually has a functioning defense that potentially is top 3 in the league. And that's going to really help him out.
See, for me, regarding this and Geno, for me, it was the play calling against the Browns. Personally, I'm not going to sit here and deny some of his throws weren't bad. They were, but for me, I thought it was a horrendously play called game. First quarter aside, I thought it was horrendous. The screens were working brilliantly in the first quarter, and then we just abandoned them until the last 38 seconds of the game, which was a horrendous decision. 13 combined total carries for Kent and Zach Charbonnet is a horrendous decision. Asking him to throw the ball 37 times is a horrendous decision. And the Seahawks ran 11 personnel, which is 3 wide receiver sets, on 70% of their players against the Browns. Now, against the number 1 defense and a D-line like the Browns have with Myles Garrett on there, you have to be running 13 personnel. In my opinion, the way we run 13 personnel with the heavy tight end sets, you have to run that, in my opinion. And PFF had Geno under pressure, 49% on his dropbacks against the Browns. Now, that's even worse than the Bengals game. So he was under pressure. Even though he only allowed 1 sack, he was under pressure on far more of his dropbacks than he was in the Bengals game.
So could I just quickly jump in and just like basically saying like you are right in what you're saying there, because we were all saying that you need to take the ball out of Geno's hands, and we have a Browns fan in our Discord.
We do.
Who literally popped up when the game was running away from us and just went, guys, I don't understand why you're not running on us.
Yeah.
Literally, Ken and Charbonnet were just having their way with us, and you abandoned it to give it to Geno, who's clearly struggling. You should be taking it. So just a chuck a question to you guys. When James was talking, I said it last week. I'll say it this week. Pete Carroll's philosophy is run the ball. So where is he? How come we not?
I've got a theory here about that game. I think our plan was to run the ball. And if you look at what we did in the first quarter, most of those 13 carries probably were in the first quarter. But as we went through the game, I think we surprised ourselves with how well our offensive line had kept Geno clean. And also there was lots of depletion in their secondary. They had 3 players from their first choice secondary go off injured throughout the game. So I think we saw that secondary as something we wanted to target, which emphasized calling passing plays, and also we were managing to keep him clean. And Myles Garrett wasn't running riot. And I think if you looked at that game as it developed, there were things in there that would encourage you to throw the ball more. But actually, if you looked at it, the running game was working when we started establishing it, and we should have kept that involved. Maybe throw some intermediate throws, try and target, get over the linebackers and try and isolate the corners, and play to DK strengths in that way. It didn't need to be an absolute air raid, but I feel like Waldron just swapped one extreme for the other too early and abandoned the running game.
Do you reckon? Just to trick you a question. Do you reckon, I've just got a stat here on the O-line, or I don't do the O-line, but I've got a stat, what I'll say in a minute. Do you not reckon that the Browns could have baited us into that throw? Because they got absolutely annihilated the week before against the run. And do you not think they could have, I know they probably didn't, but I'm just kind of thinking outside the box here. Do you not think they could have maybe baited us into
to try and get us to favour the passing game by not destroying Geno early and maybe alter our plans?
And also,
maybe
I personally think this. I said it on Twitter and I got a lot of backlash from people. I understood where they came from, but it doesn't just work as simply as if he's not healthy, don't fucking play him. He's one of the most dynamic running backs in the league. You're going to use him as a distraction. But do you think there's a lot of correlation to the fact that Ken Hardley played, the calf injury? I personally think they were low managing him, and then that goes into what you said about how they were having so much success with Geno, with keeping him clean, that they thought maybe we don't need to run the doors off Ken, and Charbonnet was having decent success. Do you reckon that's why the run game kind of petered out?
I will say that it was an absolute train wreck when they stopped doing it. I mean, we went 7 drives in a row without scoring. So whatever instigated that decision making, please don't do it again. Because 7 drives without scoring should have meant that we lost that game. To be honest with you, I will say this: I've said it before that Shane Waldron is one of the best offensive coordinators at scripting opening drives, 2-minute drills. He really does put together some outstanding sequences. That part of Shane Waldron's game is outstanding. And if you look back at every single game we've played this year, we've had a really strong first quarter. I think we're average. This is a stat that I'm making up off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure we average about 10 points on our first 2 drives this season. That's insanely good. That's insanely good. To score 10 points on your first 2 drives is insanely good. To then not score on your next 7 possessions of the ball is as awful as the start was amazing, right? So to finish that off, I would say that Waldron is the best at scripting 2-minute drills and opening drives. I think he's one of the worst at calling plays in game. He seems to he takes the bait on things too quickly and starts calling things that aren't working. He seems stubborn to change the plan once he's off and rolling with it. We're banging our heads against the same failing plan drive after drive, or when Geno is looking a little bit wobbly, surely that's the time to call a few more running plays. Give him a bit of a break. Let him get his confidence up. He seems to be very bad at managing Geno when he's on a wobbly.
Well, that fourth quarter, we started running the ball more and we started moving. The last drive, the winning drive,
that winning drive was a script, by the way.
Yeah.
It's another Waldron. They had that. I'm sure that last drive that we had was a script for if we get to a 2-minute situation, because if you look at it, it's incredibly well drawn up, and that screen to JSN is really intentional. And I've got a little piece to do on that play a bit later in the pod for anyone that wants to hear a little bit of analysis on some of the intricate stuff that we did there with JSN, because I think it's really fascinating. But again, that was a Waldron script.
I've got a stat here for the O-line, because I don't do O-line, but I saw it and I thought, if no one says it, I'm going to steal it, because I never talk about them. So the next gen stat of the game, Myles Garrett recorded just 3 pressures on 34 pass rushes in that game. That's an 8.8% an 8.8% pressure rate, his second lowest pressure rate in a game this season.
Very impressive.
I'll give you another stat.
Jason Peters going one-on-one against Myles Garrett, just doing his business.
Yeah, well, the rest of the All-Am, do you know what Jason Peters' pass block grade was? Yeah, before he started getting over 36. So shut up.
He is the new LJ Collier, and I'm fucking here for it. I am here for it. LJ Collier's reborn on the podcast.
Jason fucking Peters. I don't know how you dare. But yeah, in terms of I'll say the thing on the whole Geno benching for Drew Lock thing, it's just stupid to me. Like, I mean, we paid Geno that money, and the whole kind of the way we describe the contract is a prove it contract, and that exact situation that Geno was put in that game is the exact purpose of a prove it contract. You get into those kind of situations, you prove whether you can deliver or not, and Geno proved that he could deliver. You don't buy a pair of walking boots and then climb the mountain in sandals, do you? So putting Drew Lock in is just a simple way of just saying, right, game over. If we'd have put Drew Lock in like some people were calling for, and again, I respect everyone's opinion and their right to have it, but putting Drew Lock in at the point where people were saying put Drew Lock in, we would have lost the game. We wouldn't have won 24-20. You can forget about it. So we got into that situation for right or for wrong. We were in there, and Geno came through and delivered. And did you know that according to ESPN stats, because I'll drop a little stat in here as well, Geno Smith's go-ahead pass touchdown to Jackson Smith-Njigba was his 3rd in the final minute of regulation or overtime with the Seahawks, and that is the most of any player since 2022, surpassing Tom Brady and Matt Ryan. So perhaps the narrative that he can't deliver at the end of games is potentially not entirely true. And I'll lead that on.
To get his head out of his ass.
Yeah, like I say, in game, yeah, potentially, but he won us that game as well with that touchdown to Jackson Smith-Njigba. Yeah, but as you said, Mitch, you potentially have an interesting nugget insight into that play.
Are we skipping the running backs?
We kind of talked about them, haven't we, a little bit?
I just got a Ken stat. Just to give him some more. Do you know, I saw it. It surprised me. You two might already know this. But do you know he is leading the league in broken tackles? I thought I screenshotted it and I didn't. But I think it's he's leading the league for running backs with broken tackles on rushes by 6. Like, he's well out there. 30. The nearest one to him is I think it's 24. That surprised me.
He doesn't go down on first contact. It's so hard to wrap him up.
I just want to say that just to remind everyone that he's a fucking monster.
Oh, good lad. Yeah, he is a fucking monster. And teams will continue to learn that the longer we play them. But yeah, go on then, Mitch. This little nugget that you've got on JSN on this little touchdown, what have you seen?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about that play that we called in the red zone, because we've been really critical of some of the calls we've made in the red zone situations. We were obviously three scores in 4 visits in that game, which is an incredible improvement on recent games. And JSN made a play which was very intricate and hidden, and a lot of people wouldn't have seen. So essentially, what you've got there is what's called a one read play. I think a lot of coordinators call it a one read play, where before the ball snapped, everybody on the team already knows who's getting the ball, right? So the ball is snapped. Geno turns it was slapped straight into the hands of JSN. So as the ball is snapped, JSN is moving to his left towards the sideline. The guy that's covering him on the Browns defense is mirroring his movement on the edge of the end zone. So when the ball is thrown from Geno to JSN, which is almost instantaneous, JSN leaps in the air to take the catch and turns and presents his numbers. As he jumps in the air, he aims his feet inside rather than outside, which makes the covering corner stop moving when he's mirroring him to the sideline. You can see on the footage, and I'm sure you'll show it when we come to editing, but the cornerback stops and steps the wrong way and goes back inside as he catches the ball with his feet facing inwards, and then immediately adjusts and goes back towards the sideline, uses DK as his bubble screen, and then runs it in. And because of the step that the defender takes the wrong direction, he loses that yard, can't recover, has DK's big body as a shield, and he's lost that battle. JSN knows before the snap that it's a one read play, the ball is coming to him. He knows that what he wants to do is give himself every advantage before he catches the ball. A lot of wide receivers will start thinking about the way they're going to run before they secure the catch. JSN mimicked that by facing his feet inwards, making it look to the defender like he was already planning to catch it and go that way. And then when he caught it and went the other way, he bought that yard, and it was genius. That is Shane Waldron calling a play specifically for JSN, playing exactly to his strengths. JSN understanding what read the defender would be looking for, and sells the dummy perfectly and runs it in for a game-winning touchdown. Superb play calling and performance from everyone involved.
For layman's terms as well, if you're not too technical on it all, he's a fucking monster. He's an animal.
Yeah, he sent his defender for a hot dog and used the perfect person to screen around.
I love watching top billing. What's his name?
Yeah,
Murph.
Yeah.
He's a legend, and he's just the way he talks and everything. He brought that play down, and he said it perfectly. He said as soon as he caught that ball, it was done. When you freeze it and he catches the ball, like what Mitch said, the dummy and the intricacies is quite interesting to hear. But like he just simply put it, when you freeze it and you see how far that defender is from him, he beats his first man every single time. Then you see the guy who's blocking him, and you're like, oh, this is done. This is it, toast. His acceleration, he might not be the quickest guy, he might not have the top end speed, but his acceleration from the point, I'd like to say the point of attack, is disgusting.
Ridiculous.
Did Murph mention the feet and the jump and the angling?
No, he mentioned more about something to do with his man who's covering him wasn't set right. So it might have been alluding to what you were saying, where because of his feet, the defender may have hesitated in where he wanted to go, but he basically just gave JSN far too much time. The defender knew what he was going to do, but for whatever reason just didn't, respect it enough. One thing I'd like to say on that, just on JSN himself, and I think I listen to a lot of fantasy podcasts, play a lot of fantasy, so a lot of people are like slagging him. I think the fantasy community, unless they're Seahawks based, they just love to seem to always knock the Seahawks, and they're like, oh, JSN, he's just not been a guy, he's not done this, he's not done that. It's like, yeah, but no one mentions about the operation he had in his hand, and he came back. He was meant to be out the first couple of games of the season, but was back ready to go. Pete alluded to it, and all you need to know that he's ready to explode, and he's only going to get better, is watch his press conferences at the start of the season. Watch his demeanour at the start of the season. Watch his press conferences these last 2 weeks, and last week's was more important than this week. Last week, he alluded to the fact where he said at the start of the season, I'd go back to the bench, sit there with my head down, or just sit on the bench, quite negative. He said, but then I've decided to change that, so I'm always stood up, I'm always cheering on the defense, I'm always getting involved, and this, that, and the other. And you just listen to him talk, his confidence is going through the roof. Now, if I'm any team who wants to play us anytime soon, that's more scary than having to go up against DK growling in your face, in my opinion, because he gets his confidence like these last two games he's shown. His press conference after this game was so funny. Like he's the most polite, arrogant person I've ever listened to in my life. because he has an air of arrogance about him, confident arrogance about him, but he's so fucking polite. And he is going to, like we said it at the start of the season, I just think he's going to be a fucking monster by the end of the year. I think teams are just going to not know what to do with us. What we envisioned at the start of the year may not have come to fruition as early as we thought. But like we always say, this league is a very, very long league. Like long season, long drawn out process. Bobo is just. So we'll transition into this guy because he is an enigma. The kid is. Last week, I said he reminded me of Doug Baldwin. And he reminds me of fucking Doug Baldwin. He is like a crossbreed between Doug Baldwin and Jermaine Kearse in the same body. He's took the same trajectory as them. And Geno, stop targeting DK in the end zone. Just target Bobo because that kid has magnets in his hands. He must have some technology in them gloves where the ball just comes to them. I don't get it. I just don't get some of the stuff he does. Like that run, I watched it so many times. To have the awareness you're an undrafted guy, and most undrafted guys just play by the script, don't they? Like he's playing a jet sweep, he's getting the ball. 90% of the time, they just carry on running and do their assignment, and he gets stuffed because all the defenders would run motion in that way, and he's big, strong, physical guy. But he probably would have got stuffed on the one, I'd say, with momentum. I think there's enough guys there to stop him. To have the awareness and have the balls to say, I've only got one shot here to proper solidify myself in this team. Oh, there's a gap. Stop. Boom. And to me, NFL players can be like robots sometimes. They're so scared to, go out of their lane, especially if you're not a first-round guy, a second-round guy who has the pedigree and the capital to get away with doing your own thing. The undrafted guy just cracking his own essentially on the field and loving life.
Yeah. You can see how much he backs his ability and he backs what he sees and his confidence, and it just makes a lot of GMs around the league look very silly for missing these kind of guys. But yeah, he is an enigma, and he continues to get better every week and be more impactful every week. So more Bobo as always. Before we get to the defense,
he calls him Baby Bobo.
Did
you listen to his mic up against the Cardinals?
No.
He calls him Baby Bobo.
Oh, that's horrendous.
It sounds like he goes because he sounds. At first I thought he said more Bobo, but it sounds like he goes Baby Bobo.
If he is, that is horrendous. He needs to think of a new nickname ASAP.
It might not be. Someone might correct me on that, but to me it sounds like he goes Baby Bobo.
Oh, geez. Sounds like the worst Power Ranger ever. But before we get to the defense, I'll leave it with one final snap, and it's for Evan Brown. Yet to allow a quarterback hit or a sack in 224 pass blocking snaps this season.
Great.
Young man. Well, he's not a young man, but Mr. Brown, you are quietly going about your business, sir. So hats off to you. Keep that up. I was surprised when I saw that.
If we're talking about guys who are quietly going about their business, and we haven't given him any love, but he got 8 for 9, 81 yards and a touchdown, is old man Tyler Lockett.
Mm-hmm.
He's younger than me, but in NFL terms, old man Tyler Lockett just knows how to get it done. The safety valve. He is the best safety valve you can ever have. I don't think there's a team out there I'll stand on the pedestal of Tyler Lockett and says there's a better safety valve in the league than Tyler Lockett. Knows how to protect himself, knows how to get the first down, always aware where he is on the field, knows if he needs to battle for a couple of extra yards, he will take the contact just to get them extra yards. If he knows he's got the first down, he'll go down straight away. He is literally going to be, Futurama, where the head in the thing, him and Pete on the sideline, just heads in the fucking chambers, just chilling out.
That's a horrendous reference because you are the one person on earth that watches Futurama, so nobody gets it.
I don't watch Futurama. I just remember when I was younger. I could be completely wrong.
All right.
Could be completely wrong. Could be talking about the wrong series.
There's
But
every
I
chance.
think it's Futurama.
There's every chance for you, Pez. Yeah, Tyler Lockett. He was absolutely killing him in that first quarter, especially. Yeah, he's ridiculous as always. Someone else that is absolutely ridiculous as we get to the defense. Boye Mafe, yet again, another sack. When is the NFL going to wake up to this young man and what he's doing this year? Nick Bosa. 0.3 sacks per game. Micah Parsons, 0.8 sacks per game. Joey Bosa, 0.67 sacks per game. Brian Burns, 0.71 sacks per game. Rashawn Gary, 0.64 sacks per game. Boye Mafe is at 0.83. He is playing. It is not an understatement to say that he's playing at an all-pro level at this very moment in time. So far this season, he's got 21 tackles, 5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, 6 quarterback hits, a pass breakup, and get this, a 31% pass rush win rate, which is tied first in the NFL. Tied first in the NFL for pass rush win rate for a second-round guy that, like we said in the last week's pod, that was just a rotational piece last year that had talent that we're just kind of trying to mold into what we've wanted. We bring in this pass specialist. We gets his second year, and I watched his press conference after the game, and he didn't really put it down to anything other than just being able to see the field better, just learning the game a little bit better. And all of a sudden, you cut that move out of your pass move, or you cut that move out of kind of your technique. And all of a sudden, you're getting past people better, so you start doing that more, and just adapting his game, making slight little tweaks, and all of a sudden, it's like, everything's clicked for him. I mean, he's getting a sack a game. Like I said last week, if he continues, he's going to get 14, 15 sacks this season, and that is almost a franchise record. Like, the kid's ridiculous. Amongst everyone else, he is ridiculous as well. So keep going. Keep going, Boye Mafe, because I'm telling you what, like we said, with Leonard Williams on this defense now, and then Boye Mafe and all these cats that we've got, it is so scary, so exciting.
I'd love to see how he measures up statistically against some of the more thought of players in his position, because I just had a look at Defensive Player of the Year. He's not even on there. Bobby Wagner's on there. Bobby Wagner's on there. Granted, he's having a good year. He looks like he's took some young energizer pills. He's killing it. Tariq Woolen's on there. Granted, he's done some stuff, but he's not done that much. Like,
that seems harsh to have Tariq on there, not Boye, but
exactly. But then you look at the top of the list, and it's all players who play his position. So a little thing for you, James, because I know you're a Boye Mafe, you're the boy. Compare him to the others at his position, and let's see how he stacks up and see where they are currently in the race for the Defensive Player of the Year and where he should slot in.
I mean, James just did with the sack stats. I mean, and pass rush win rate, which is always hard to say. Those two stats he stacks up top. He's got more sacks per game than anyone in the league, and he's tied first on pass rush win rate. So, it's already looking really good for him. He needs to do it consistently because he's still making his name. There's bias there towards established names at this point in terms of the odds. But I mean, if he carries on right now, he's what, six sacks in where are we? 5 and 2, so 6 in 7. He's had one game without one, so he's on course for what, over 17 games, 14, 15.
Yep.
There's no 14 or 15 sack edge rusher who's not in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. So keep doing what you're doing, Boye Mafe, and you'll be right in that conversation. I've got a little note on Mafe here because I went back and had a look at exactly what Mafe had said in pre-season when he was interviewed on his game. And of course, this was the same time period where Pete Carroll said that he would be the biggest leap from the first year players. And Boye Mafe said he was emphasising trying to be faster off the snap, improving his repertoire of pass rushing moves, and those two things combined are exactly why he's suddenly getting an incredible amount of impact. If you watch any breakdown of Boye Mafe on YouTube, whoever you follow, I've chosen to look at the 20-minute video that Griff put up from who works with Matty F. Brown, and he did a whole sequence of his pass rush moves against the Bengals, and honestly, it was incredibly impressive because he was picking and choosing which moves to make on the tackle based on what he'd done on the previous snaps that had won. And rather than going back to the same move that he'd won, he would go to a pass rush move that would counter the counter for what just won him the rep. So he would predict that the tackle he was against would counter what he just did, and he would go for the pass rush move that would beat the counter for the last one. He's playing 4D chess at this point with tackles. He's playing on a different dimension to other teams, and he's become incredibly difficult to deal with his blend of power, speed, and his intelligence. That is not a second-year player. That is the experience of a wily vet that is, in his last couple of years in the NFL, relying on knowledge and thinking ahead of, getting himself an advantage with his brain rather than the physical traits that have left him at this point. To do it in your second year, when you've got your physical peak in in 4 or 5 years, it's nuts the level he's at with that now. So that emphasis he put in training camp has immediately correlated into the season, and it was obviously immediately spotted by Pete Carroll, as he covered. So this isn't what I'm trying to say is this isn't a fluke. These are the things that he's worked on, and these are things that he's years ahead of his rivals. On incredibly impressive.
We'll shout out to the bloody hell. I had his name the other day because I thought I keep forgetting his name. The coach from Michigan State, Jordan.
Brandon Jordan. Yeah,
Brandon Jordan. Shout out to him because he's had some stellar names on his resume who have come into the league by storm. Boye Mafe could be the biggest surprise out of them all for not being a known factor by the end of the season. And I'll just add, you waxed lyrical about him, not really got anything more to add that's different. All I'd add into it is he has 2 more primetime games at this moment. He's got Thanksgiving, he's got the Cowboys. And I will say, by the time them 2 primetime games are done, he will be a league-wide name people are talking about. He won't just be, he's doing all right. He's going to be, everyone's going to be talking about him because, like he said, I loved it in his press conference. He's just saying, I'm just figuring out what my game is at the moment. You're figuring out what your game is. Just casually getting a sack every single fucking game. Like every single game from week 2. And
that's why he's so good, though. That's why he's so good, though, because if you look at the Bengals game and he was clocked with I think it was 5 different pass rush techniques on the same tackle in one game. How do, as an opposing offensive tackle going into the game, how do you prepare for Boye Mafe by watching tape? Because you go, okay, well, he's got that move. When the tackle did this, he did that. Okay, and then the next time the tackle did that, he did a different one. You look at it and you go, so I've basically got to be prepared for everything then.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say. To be fair, that's exactly what I was going to say when we were talking about Leonard Williams and with about Boyes that you've said there as well. Like now on that defensive line with all his moves, we've now got everything. Like I was saying about Leonard Williams, that he was the kind of build that we didn't have. Now that we've got him, we can present every opposition offensive line every game saying, all right, what have you got for us? Because we've got everything for you. We've got every kind of player. Deal with us.
I thought you were going to say, when you said the player to benefit the most from the signing of Leonard Williams, I thought you were going to say Mafe, because the amount of attention he's going to bring to the interior is just going to leave Mafe one-on-one on the outside, instead of Mafe getting double teamed with the guard and the tackle, because they're going to have so much trouble with Draymond Jones, Jeremy Reed, Williams, Mario Edwards, that they're just not going to be able to double Mafe up. like teams are going to have to start doing, but then they're going to get dissected in the middle. Like,
the thing is with that, Pez, is that teams will have to do what we have been having to do because of our injuries and play 12 and 13 personnel and have tight ends on the field to help with those situations. They'll have to bolster their line, and at that point, our secondary wins because you play into the other strengths that we have. So it really is complementary. The Leonard Williams pickup is complementary to everything that's been good about our defense. I would describe him as a catalyst for an already good defense. He will enhance everything we've done well.
I saw a quote, and I think it said it was Pete basically commented on the signing, and he said he pretty much like Mitch said, he sees him as a guy that's going to make teams throw on us because he wants teams to throw on us. Because he said his comment was, you've not seen what the secondary can truly do because teams do not want to throw on us as much as they need to. They keep still targeting the middle, more safe. They don't want to go deep, and it's something I want to talk about when we get into the secondary. Something I've noticed just on the stats wise. Little point.
We're going to get there, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Do you think this is, come the end of the season, potentially we might be saying this is the best defensive line we've ever had?
Defensive line.
Because you talk about the Super Bowl with Mike Bennett, Red Bryant, Cliff Averill. That for me is pretty peak. Yeah, that's pretty peak. But come the end of the season, with the names that we've got on this defensive line and the production we're getting out of them, now you add Leonard Williams in there. Like, is that
name brand? Name brand? Yes. Name brand, yes. I reckon we will. Because when we had our D line in the Super Bowl years, they weren't household names. We have Draymond Jones is a household name. Leonard Williams is a household name.
Frank Clark.
Jeremy Reed's won a couple of Super Bowls. He's a household name around the league. Frank Clark's a household name around the league. The only real ones that really aren't solid household names are Daryl Taylor, who kind of is, kind of isn't, and Boy Mafe, and then our rookies who we picked up, in my opinion.
What do you think, Mitch?
I know
I've kind of just dropped it on you all there.
No, it's a really good question. I think in terms of personnel, on face value, personnel, no, because there's some players in there that still need to prove themselves. Draymond Jones is a guy who is highly rated by people that have played him regularly. He's highly rated by people he's played with, but he's not highly rated across the league because he hasn't sort of done it consistently long enough. So there's a certain element of experience in our D line coupled with guys who are sort of proving it. And I factor in our rookies in that as well. However, what I will say is I think it's the best D line we've ever had in terms of versatility, because I've said it on previous pods. Our best pass rushing defensive line is also our best run stuffing defensive line, and having the personnel out there to deal with both scenarios is an incredible advantage. Leonard Williams has just added to that in an enormous way. So yeah, I would say that it's not necessarily our best ever D line, but I certainly think there's a conversation to be had, and I definitely think that this D line that's been assembled is an incredibly good fit for what Clint Hurt wants to do. He doesn't have square pegs and round holes anymore. He's got round pegs in round holes that can also be square pegs in square holes, depending on what is put in front of them. They just are very adaptable. He's got a perfect D-line assembled for what he's trying to do. So, yeah, it's a really interesting point. I'm going to be non-committal, but I will say it's a very good conversation to be had about that.
Diplomatic, sit on the fence. Yeah. I just wanted to transition into Jordan Brooks. I just say it as it is. He's just an animal. The guy is a monster. This is for anyone who questioned why we picked Jordan Brooks in the first and we didn't pick Patrick Queen up, like a lot of you bitched about at the time. this is why we picked him up. But only now, in typical Seahawks fashion, is he in his last year of his contract. We don't extend him, and then they go, oh, let's just play you the way you played to get you that first round grade for a lot of teams. Let's just play you like you did in your senior year in college, seek and destroy, go after the quarterback, shoot the gap. And he's proving he is probably, like, yes, Jamal, everyone's like, Jamal's great at shooting the gap, going on the blitz. Jordan Brooks better than anyone else. Because he is a solid tackler. He can tackle at speed. He still has the speed, God knows how, after the ACL. And he knows where the football is at all times. He is a heat-seeking missile. He is our best blitzer, in my opinion, and I am very biased. But bias apart, he is our best, but he's better than Jamal, better than anyone on this team by being in that middle, like the second to third. Yes, Mitch, love it. He is the heat-seeking missile. And now people are starting to truly realise this is why he's a first rounder, because he is a monster. But in typical Seahawks fashion, let's let him play the way he plays, a bit like who was it? Who's the tight end we had who we didn't use?
Jimmy Graham.
Jimmy Graham, and he's like, I'm out of here. Oh no, Jimmy, wait. We'll use you as a passing tight end. Oh my God, he's fucking amazing. What a surprise. And now they've done that with Jordan Brooks, and now they're going to have to cough the cash up when they could have just had him for another year. But now they're going to have to cough the cash up, because if this man doesn't slow down, we're fucked in trying to keep hold of him.
Yeah,
I think he's a good candidate for the tag this year.
Oh, they better.
Yeah, I think they might tag him. If they can't come, I think they'll tie him down. They'll certainly tie him down. It'll either be a contract extension or before the end of the season, or it'll be franchise tag. He will not hit free agency.
That strip sack, it was like...
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Watching his college highlights when we drafted him. It was like he was...
It was as if his legs weren't moving and he was on rails the way he went around, and just it was incredibly slick. Honestly, so good.
Have you watched the Mario film?
no.
Have you not watched the Mario film? He's wasted, man. Well, you played Mario, haven't you?
No. Well, I was born in 99.
You've never played Super Mario?
No.
Fucking educate yourself. God, wasted on you young folk. You've played it, haven't you, Mitch?
I mean, I've never owned it, so I may have played it.
Oh my God!
I was doing crosswords at 4. Like, I'm too advanced for Mario, man.
Sudoku for me.
Fucking
heard him tonight, by the way. Futurama, fucking Mario. What's he on about?
Super Mario. Right, that's the worst take you've got, James. Be very careful. How do you not know Super Mario?
Are you going to get to the point? Because you haven't even explained.
No, it doesn't matter anymore because you've not watched the film, you big donut. There's a thing in the film what I was going to use as a reference for Jordan Brooks. For anyone who listen, right? Anyone who's listening to this and watched the Super Mario film, at the end, Super Mario's getting chased by this rocket thing, and he's like a heat-seeking rocket, follows him everywhere he goes. Don't do your little patronising modern chicken of yours. Just because you're too young to understand what Super Mario is.
I just think a proper Super Mario fan would know what the rocket's called.
You've ruined it.
So essentially what you're saying is Jordan Brooks is like a heat-seeking missile, right? So you didn't need Mario, just a seeking missile.
There's a scene in Mario to highlight what you were saying. I was going to reference that, but it doesn't matter anymore. James has ruined it.
Pez, you know, God love you. Absolutely God love you. Yes.
You've never played Mario Kart before?
All right, I might have played Mario Kart, yeah.
I might have played Mario Kart. Or do you live in a shed? Oh, do you know what, James?
Nothing wrong with living
I'm
in a
trying to
shed.
find something in the bottom of this Santa mug for your. Fuck. Let's move on.
Yeah,
Secondary.
let's move on.
Piece
Tariq
of shit.
Tariq got my Viagra pills out again this week. For the first time this season. First interception. Granted it was a bit of a weird one, but they all count. They all count the same. It's on his stat sheet. It's an interception. He's back, and hopefully he can go on a bit of a run again. A quieter day for Devon Witherspoon. Just the one tackle and one solo tackle, so 2 total tackles. Obviously, no interceptions, no sacks, but still played really well.
That was the point I was about to make. We said it last week, didn't we? That teams are going to start avoiding Spoon. We statistically seen it, and they're going to start trying Tariq. The Ravens now have an issue because it's like the Matrix. Please tell me you've watched the Matrix, James,
Yes.
with the blue and the red pill.
Yes.
Which path do you want to take? Because they're both going to fuck you in the ass, essentially. And
Pick a pill. One of them's going to fuck you in the ass, and the other one's going to fuck you in the ass as well. What's the matter with you, man? So, as it turns out, the red pill and the blue pill were basically enemies, right?
yeah.
I think
Either
you've seen a bit of
going up your ass.
I think you've seen a bit of a blue version of the Matrix. I don't know what fucking hell. Oh,
just pop that up your anus.
Mitch's commentary over this is not helping anything.
Sure, it was the Matrix and not the Dominatrix or something that you were watching. Fucking hell.
Oh man.
My lord. Anyway, what I was going to say to finish off on the defense that needs pointing out, I thought the run defense wasn't great for the first time in quite a few weeks. Any reason behind that? Obviously, we all know no Nick Chubb. Kareem Hunt feasted pretty well.
Their offensive line made light work of our D line. They did a superb job creating lanes, and I think they did great with that. I honestly, watching the game, I was quite impressed with their run blocking, and I think their interior O line will have graded really well for that. I thought they ran the ball really well, honestly. I don't see that as us falling off. We're not going to be able to shut down every offensive line and every running back tandem in the league. I do think that last season, that offensive line and those running backs would have ran for 200. This year it was an average amount of yards given up, but last year it would have been so much worse. Sorry, Pez, have you got a film or a computer game to compare something to?
No.
Oh, fucking hell.
No more dirty films too.
Oh, fucking hell.
Right, fucking serious analysis here, guys. Come on. There was talk in the Discord about, and you said before, Mitch, what I'll bring back up about why we struggled in the run game. Could you put that down to, because you mentioned about Daryl Taylor playing in situations he wouldn't normally play? Obviously, is that a thing to show that Nwosu was the better run fit lineman?
Always was. But I don't think it would have helped in this game.
Right.
Because they ran.
I think their whole line was just solid in.
The thing that we've been really good at with stuffing the run so far this year has been making contact either at the line or before the line. So often we're making contact with the running back before they've even made a yard. Right, we're making contact. They're falling over the line, maybe 1-2 yards, maybe 3. Nothing sort of really. They're not snapping off any big gains. This game, they were contacted already behind our line a lot, and that has in a big way is due to their offensive line winning their one-on-one matchups and putting our defensive line, or the interior of our defensive line, where they wanted them for the run that was being schemed. So we weren't making as early contact as we had in previous games, and that points more to a really good offensive scheme and good offensive linemen than it does us having an off day or not dealing with with anything. It was simply they were very good at what they wanted to do. They pulled it off really well, and they had a game plan they stuck to, and it worked all game. That's how I see it. I don't see it as a negative on us. I think we just have to, occasionally, you need to just tip your hat and say, well played. And I think that's just all that is, really. No concern there from me.
Yeah. Well, to round off, the defense now in the NFC, they are first in total sacks with 26. They are second in yards per rush allowed at 3.4 to running backs, and they are first in yards allowed per play at a 4.8. All before, as we've said, before the addition of Leonard Williams now as well. So superb stuff on the defense. But that is all we've got time for this week. We'll be back for the Ravens game next week. Really interesting game that, as we said, bit of a coin flip one. We'll see how it goes. Another really good test. We'll be back later in the week for some more rookie watch, some more fancy stuff where we'll have even more fun and oh fucking hell, we've had an awful day on the vocabulary side tonight. I do apologise. We'll dive deeper into the rookies, Devin Witherspoon, Jackson Smith-Njigba, all that good stuff in Rookie Watch, a bit more than we've talked about them tonight, as we don't want to cross over content for you all. So tune into that later in the week. We've had a good laugh tonight. You've nearly killed me on multiple occasions. So I hope all you listeners have had fun. And you better go and play Super Mario now, because if you haven't, Pez is, you're on Pez's wanted list. I'd watch The Matrix as well. Give that a watch.
You'll understand how both feels fuck you in the ass.
Yeah. don't. We're nearly at the finishing line. Do not get me started again. Until then, until we tune in again, you can follow us on social media: Instagram, X, YZ, whatever it's called, TikTok, all that good stuff. Just search Discord. Yeah, I was getting there yet again. Just search We Talk Seahawks. Our link to our Discord server will be in our pinned tweet. You can join there, as we keep saying, and as you'll keep hearing on this podcast going forward. Quite a fun place to be. Quite a lot of flying opinions around and mental states in the games, which will sure give you a laugh during game day and add a bit of spice to your game day as well. And you can come and have a laugh with us as well. So what more could you want? Because let me tell you something, we do have a laugh if anything else. If nothing else. But until then, I will leave you with Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.